Final Fantasy Type-0 HD has had an interesting run up to this point. Originally, it was a PSP game, Final Fantasy Gito, and then it was 4 years in limbo. It just disappeared. And now it's out, but on PS4. And I mean, it's been, what, they've had PS3, PS Vita, but PS4?
Yeah, like the jump from a handheld to a next-gen console has sort of taken a lot of people like off guard, you know, obviously. And the final result that we've gotten is actually kind of mixed.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's an HD release, they haven't actually done any balances to the engine, or they've made some very, very minor character changes.
Right.
And like, they've added very little new content on top of that. But besides that, they haven't released it on the Vita of all things, which, you know.
Which, when it's all said and done, I mean, the Vita corrects a lot of the issues that the PSP had. There's a second stick, the download, the store works way better, the buttons don't break, like your square button doesn't break after 3 hours.
Yeah.
So a lot of the issues that people had with the PSP are gone in the Vita, and yet they still didn't go with that. They went with the next-gen consoles.
They don't even use L2 and R2 on the actual controller,
Yeah.
so it's a bit strange. Which is a pity, because it's worth noting that in terms of Final Fantasies, it's probably one of the better ones that's been released in a very long time, and very certainly the best Final Fantasy 13 related title of all. Like, it has a story that uses the same basic lore, so if you've played 13 or you attempted to play 13, then you will get it. It's got the Lassie and Pulse and Focus, and all the terms are used. But this one's got a lot more focus on sort of political intrigue. There's a lot more focus on the psychology of the characters. You actually learn a little bit about your characters, and the lore of the world is a lot better expressed, particularly than the first 13 game, but even the later ones as well. So, you know, generally it's a much better story. It's the kind of story that we wanted, and then it's backed up by being just a good action RPG on top of that, and that's something that we certainly haven't seen for a long time.
Well, as somebody who, basically the issue I've had with the Final Fantasy games for a long time is, I'm a teenager, I'm going to stand in a row and wait for someone to call a god and drop it on my head. Like, that's always been, it seems particularly old-fashioned.
Yeah.
So they come into this where it's the 3-character switching model, everyone's got their strengths, there's the kill sites. It seems like they've really said, let's try something different. Like, let's just give something else a go.
Yeah, that's right. And in doing so, they've helped freshen up the story, but they've made enough references backwards that it's still relevant, it's still Final Fantasy, it's still got everything that you want.
So I guess on that note then, with that said, is it like a notable addition to Final Fantasy, or is it just a happy sideline that came with a demo for Final Fantasy 15?
Look, it's great that they've finally released it. It's a game that we all should have played, but as a full price release, it might be pushing it a little bit. Maybe wait a bit. It's definitely worth playing though.